tuning in. This is Selena and Iman. Together we make you plus happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter. Remember to like, follow, share. We're on all platforms at you plus happy. Hi, Iman.
Hi, Selena.
How are you today?
How am I? I'm good. The sun is shining, so I'm in a good place. How are you doing?
I'm good, but there's no sun. So
let's go somewhere.
Anything you want to share about this week?
Yeah, I did a little bit of self-care this week. So I went to the beach, which is very much self-care for me. Mm-hmm. And it was just nice because the closest beach to me now is like an hour and a half away. So I don't get to go as much. So it was nice to just lay out on the beach. It's summer in Australia. I'm not laying out on the beach in the winter. So it was nice to just be, by water, writing, reading, just reflecting on the year. So that was my little happy moment. What about you? I could see you going there with me.
What'd you say?
I could see you going there with me.
Yeah.
As I was
the only time I'll be at the beach right now is in my mind. So I'm going to live vicariously through you. Complete opposite. So snow, back on lockdown, curfews, all of that. So I it snowed, which I'm not happy about, but I did push myself. I went for a walk in the snow. I had to be careful, but it felt really good to push myself and go out there. And there was some sunshine the day after the snow, so I got to absorb some of that. And also being locked down and in the snow, I bought this shirt before I knew we were getting locked back down. So that's why I dressed up. I'm wearing my new shirt. So nothing's going to stop me. So it's I'm going to wear my new shirt on the podcast because I don't got nowhere to wear it. So it's a costume, but it's okay. So that was it. But anyway, so what happened? Who do we have this week?
So this week we have Luvia Rivera on our show. I'm really excited to have her on. So Luvia is Salvadoran and Guatemalan American. She is a proud Latino, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. After high school, she pursued her bachelor's at University of California, Santa Barbara, and then went on to get her master's in social work from NYU in 2009. She's had the unique experience of practicing social work on an international level, mostly in the UK, and now she is living in Australia, so she's here with me. This journey began with her only thinking she'd be living abroad for 2 years, which turned into 10 years of living overseas. And she explains it as a one-of-a-kind experience that she is truly thankful for.
Wow. And without further ado, we welcome Luvia.
There you are.
Hi. Hello.
This is my friend Selena.
Hello.
Hi, Selena. Nice to meet you.
I'm here.
Thank you so much. I know it's early on a Saturday, so I appreciate you getting up to do this.
That's okay.
All right, so we will jump right in.
Okay. So just to start off, tell us how you got started in social work.
I think from a young age, I always knew I wanted to work with people. I wanted to help people. So once I finished high school, I started applying to different universities. I ended up attending UC Santa Barbara as a pre-psych major, not realizing that Santa Barbara was basically research focused. So I knew then that that wasn't my thing. So I decided to change majors early on, my freshman year, and I decided to go into sociology. Looked into sociology, really liked it. The people in my class just made it very different. It's just like a complete eye-opener. And yeah, as soon as I graduated, I looked straight into graduate school, and I knew that I wanted to go into social work. At the time, I was in a period in my life where I just wanted change. Although I was in Santa Barbara, I was 2 hours from home. Like, it was still a bit far, but really close to home. And I was at a point where I had two options. I could either stay in California, go to USC to pursue my master's, or do I move to New York and experience a whole life out there? To prepare myself for that, I decided my senior year to do an internship in Washington, D.C. And I said to myself, well, if I can survive the winter here, then I think I would be all right. And I had such a great time. To me, it was just different. It was different to everything that I knew. I stepped out of my comfort zone. And sure enough, when I returned back the last quarter of my senior year, I think I just told myself, hey, Luvia, just do it. Like, don't look back, just do it and see where it takes you. And yeah, that summer, I think it was summer of 2007, was probably the summer that completely changed my life. And I moved to New York, did my 2-year master program. And next thing I knew, I stayed there for 4 years. So that's really how it all started. But it was in my 2-year program at NYU where I decided to do 2 studying abroad programs, one in Costa Rica and the other one in Ghana, which really, to me, was the beginning of it all. Like, I think that's where it started, this interest in wanting to expose myself to different cultures, different people, different experiences. And yeah, sure enough, one thing led to another. I felt like opportunities just knocked on my door, and I didn't want to just turn my back. I felt like they were knocking on my door for a reason. And similar to where I was some years ago, before I moved to New York, I thought, hey, it's here for a reason. Just hold on to it and run with it. And yeah, and now I'm in Australia, which is, yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's been really exciting.
Yeah. Did you visit New York before you went? Because that's a big transition. Like,
yeah, I had gone twice with friends because I had other friends who I visited down there. And also, I think for me, an advantage was that I had joined a sorority at Santa Barbara. And from there, I connected with some of my line sisters, with sisters within the organization. And through that, I met other people, and that made the transition a lot more comforting. Yeah. Because although it was a new place, to me, I felt like I was going to a different place where I knew people that became my family afterwards. But yeah, I had visited twice, but it's still not the same when you're visiting, which is amazing, to then having to live in the city.
Yeah.
And I guess you kind of went into the next question, but was there ever a time where like someone either in your family or friends had different expectations and you kind of were like, nope, that's not the route or the path that I want to go?
I think the person who has influenced me the most, definitely without a doubt, has been my mom. My mom has always been very supportive of everything that I've probably have dreamed of, or anything that I just set my mind to. She's always been very supportive. But I think, as most moms do, you know, they want to be closer to you as you kind of grow into adulthood. So I think for her, that was that expectation. After I graduated undergrad, she was expecting me to be home and then establish myself there. So when I dropped the bomb, like, oh, Mom, by the way, I'm moving away, I think that for her was difficult. And in turn, you know, it is difficult because you have those feelings of guilt. You don't want to let your family down, but equally, although it was difficult for her as it was to me, she knew that that was something that I wanted to pursue. So was still very supportive.
Did you miss her a lot when you left?
Oh God, yeah. And you know, I think no matter, when I talk to people that have shared similar experiences to me where they've moved either to a different city or a different state or even overseas. No matter where you go, if it's a new place and you're adapting to a new environment, I think it takes about 6 months to like a year to really establish yourself. And with that comes all those feelings of like homesickness. And to this day, I really miss my family. I really miss my friends. But I've also feel quite fortunate to have established new relationships with people from different walks of life. So to me, it's like, oh, I'm kind of just putting myself out there. And although I'm missing the people that have known me since day one and who have supported me since day one, I'm introducing myself and meeting new people that are completely changing my life, but in a different way.
Yeah. Do you ever find it challenging to maintain the relationships you already have established? And because I moved a lot too, and I know mine has. And sometimes when I first moved, I was like, oh, I found it a little challenging to keep. I was 3,000 miles away, and it was kind of tough to maintain those friendships and the family. I saw them like twice a year, so it was tricky. Did you find that in your experience?
Yeah. I just think in general, the older you get, maybe this is my experience, I don't know if for everyone is different, but the older I've become, my circle of friends has become a lot smaller and more intimate. And to me, it's like these are the friendships that are going to last a lifetime. Your family will be family no matter what, but your friendship groups, I think for me, I've been quite blessed with the friendship groups that I established in my teenage years, and we've been able to maintain that strong relationship. And like most friends, you fall out and then things get better, but that's just part of the journey. But my friends, oh, I love my friends. They're just everything to me. And I think we really inspired one another. My female friendship groups were always looking after each other, always encouraging each other. And I think that's so important, especially in a world where, things aren't easy.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that support.
And in all the moves in pursuing your career, was there a time where you doubted yourself or you doubted your move?
I don't think I ever doubted the move for the career. I think that was always maybe what I was destined to experience. I genuinely believe that was what that was my calling. I was meant to, and I still feel that way now, that I'm where I am now because something has guided me to here. Something has happened in my life that has led me to here. I think for more personal reasons, I've had taken some detours along the way, and that's okay. But in terms of like my career itself, that's been quite stable, which I've been really lucky. I'm really happy and lucky.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's interesting. One of the things I was telling Selena why I wanted you on the show is just because I've heard a little bit of your background and like where you've gone and all your travels. And it seems like you consistently would push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I don't think that's something a lot of people do, where it's like, oh, this is scary, like, let me go back into my comfort zone. So I guess, was there anyone or any person in your family that you feel like, I know you mentioned your mom, but like, was that always innate, even when you were younger, where you're just like, oh, this is scary, let's pursue it more, as opposed to like, this is scary, let me step back?
Yeah. I think it's important to acknowledge you girls' experience too. Like you've stepped out of your comfort zones as well. And it's nice when we can have these dialogues, these conversations about our experiences, because you're right, there's a lot of people. I have some friends actually who have told me like, you're so brave because I can never think about leaving my family behind. And that's okay. Like we all have different paths and different journeys. I think for me, given my background and, I was raised by some real strong women, starting with my mom. She emigrated from Guatemala when she was only 14 years old, and having to gone through that transition herself at such a young age in America, not really knowing the language, not really knowing people. I think her and I can relate in that sense. But look at her now, like, she's established herself, and she's worked so hard to ensure that me and my siblings got ahead in life and we had other opportunities. but it didn't start with my mom. It started with my grandmother. She's the first one who started for all of us, moving from Guatemala to California in the 70s. And my grandmother, I think she's the most inspirational person I know. I think I have a little bit of me and, of me and her because, and vice versa, because I think she introduced me to this world of like, just expand yourself, travel, know people, learn. That's the best way you do. And she's now in her early 80s. And I'll share just a quick little thing that her and I just shared not long ago. About 2 years ago, I went to Jerusalem. And that trip really, for me, it was more of a spiritual trip. And I think because I was in a period in my life where I was soul searching, and my grandmother went just a few months after I had gone. And being on the phone to her, talking to her about being in Jerusalem felt like, for me, it was the same experience that she had, but she went on her own. I went with a friend. She went on her own. She went with like a group of people at church, and she was telling me like, oh, they were treating me like a queen. I think it's because I'm older. They're the ones waiting in line, and I didn't have to make any line so that I can see the Pope, because then they went to Poland afterwards. But it's just nice to be able to have someone who, she kind of like paved the way for me. And it's nice that it doesn't matter how old you are, if that's in you. It's just in you, and you're just going to enjoy it, and you're going to pass it on. And I think that's the connection that I have with her. Sorry, completely going off tangent.
No, I mean, it sounds like you had like a community of support, like in your family and your friends. So I think that's important for sure. I guess switching gears a little bit. So the whole reason Selena and I started with the podcast was to really redefine success and what it means to be successful. So what would be kind of your definition for success? Like when are you most happy?
Yeah. When I was growing up, my mom would always tell me, in order for you to be successful, you must go to school. You must finish school, because if something tragic happens in your life, or you have to go wherever, or things don't turn out the way you plan to, at least your education is the only thing that you have. And no matter where you are, you'd be able to do something with it. And I think from a very young age, that was instilled in me, where I was like, okay, I need to go to school. I need to get good grades. I need to do this, and I need to do that. And I think now that I'm older, I look back, and it almost feels like you're programmed into these expectations, and you must do this in order to be successful, so that you can then have a family and own a house and have your own cars and own more properties. And that's great. And I think it works for a lot of people. But I think my experiences have changed my thought process and the way that I think. I think because I've lived overseas now for so long, it's liberating to not feel tied to anything. And that's my definition of success. My definition of success is meeting people, understanding a world, cultures, experiences beyond mine, immersing myself to that. That to me has been the richest thing that I've experienced so far. And to me, that's like, oh, that's enough. That makes me happy. And I think maybe that's an American way of thinking like, oh, you must have a degree and you must do this. Whereas you come to other countries and that's not the most important thing. People have nothing and they're the happiest. And I love that. I love happiness is to me is the key to success. You have to be happy within, grateful. These are all things that I've learned. The more I've grown up, the more I've experienced, whether it's good experiences, bad experiences, just the array of emotions that you feel. And to me, that I feel I'm accomplished, and I'm happy with that.
I think it's interesting. Just sorry, Selena. How you said like traveling, people sometimes have nothing and they're so happy, and I experienced that when I went to Ghana as well. And like those were the most positive, optimistic people that I've ever met, and had very minimal in terms of like physical things. So interesting that there was like a shift in my perspective as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think in America, this is just piggybacking off of what you said, do you think in America, like we're kind of like you were saying, we're programmed to think like that, but are we like forced to, because things are so expensive, like, and it's the norm here to be like, you have to get your degree and you have to work all these jobs? Because even I know when my mom was here, like you work 2 jobs just to like, because LA was so expensive. But I feel like we're like pushed into that here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually took a break and I went back to California for a year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like I was experiencing reverse culture shock.
Wow.
Because I've been away for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the traffic, just all of those little things that to me at one point was just the norm. It was just way too much for me. And similar to what you're saying, what you earn compared to the cost of living, it just doesn't add up to me. Like it just doesn't match. But I'm comparing that to some of the experiences that I've had living abroad, where there's a good work-life balance. And my experience being in California for the short year that I was there, I couldn't find that. I couldn't find that work-life balance. I felt like I was working to try to have a little bit of fun because obviously you want to earn your extra dollars here and there, but I just felt constrained. Like I just felt like I was I don't know, I just can't explain. It's really difficult, but I just felt like I was stuck, like I wasn't really going anywhere compared to the life that I had established myself in Europe,
Like hamster wheel. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the quality of life, well, both of you guys have lived overseas now. Is the quality of life, because I haven't lived overseas yet, that's why I'm asking on this one. But the quality of life when you come back here, is it like it's lacking compared to the places that you guys have lived overseas?
I think it's just people's experiences are different. I think based on my own, I felt more liberated living overseas. I don't know, back home, not that it's toxic, because absolutely it's not. That's not what I'm trying to say. And I think for me, what compensates for that is my friends and my family. They're around me, and that's amazing. But just the life itself, I can give you an example. When you look at your vacation time, what we called our annual leave, when I was in the UK, I would get up to, 30 days worth of vacation time, paid vacation time. And then you'd go back to the States and you'd be lucky if you have like 3 weeks. So to me, that's, especially in the work that we do, social work, it can be quite draining. It's hard. So having that time and people, the system recognizing that we need some time for just leisure, for downtime, to me, that's important. And I felt like I just didn't have that in the short time that I was back home. But that's not to say that that will be my experience if I go back to the States. It's just in the experience that I had in that short time.
Yeah. Mom was telling me that, like in Australia, like you could take a month off and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen in America.
And that's one of the things I always talk to my friends about, because I would go home sometimes and I'd go for 3 straight weeks and they're like, how could you do that and still go to different countries in Europe? And I'm like, it's just a different way of life.
Right.
It's that to me is a massive difference that I've seen, and how how I respond to it emotionally, physically, like just my body has become so accustomed to that kind of life. And now that I'm living in Australia, I'm feeling that again. It's been quite an interesting experience in Australia because of COVID. But still having that flexibility and that encouragement, like from your bosses, like take some time off. You need to reset. You need to recharge. I can't remember experiencing that back in the States when I was working there.
I think it's just the culture.
Yeah.
I was gonna say how because this is the longest that I've ever lived outside of the States. Like I've done study abroads for 2-3 months, but I've been here almost a year now. So I haven't experienced the culture shock yet, but I remember requesting time off pre-COVID to go back home, and I was hesitant. I was just like, oh, I've only been here like a couple months. So I requested a week and a half. My boss basically was like, that's not enough time. You should at least take like 3 to 4 weeks off. And I was just like,
What?
but just like to that, I'm like, I've been here like 2 months, and you're like, no, just take a month off.
Wow.
And I'm just like, okay.
My friend's pregnant here in the States, and she was talking to her boss this week, and she was they were like, well, a lot of women just about maternity leave, and they were like, oh, a lot of women just come right back. And she was like, well, I don't like not coming right back. But it's like, I don't, like you said, I don't want to say like good or bad. I think it's just the different cultures. Like
Yeah.
in America, it's not the norm to take a lot of time off. So, and then you get worried about losing your place because it's so competitive. It's just a lot, I think, behind it. But shifting gears a little bit, I know you mentioned your friends. How, and you're saying you guys have a good relationship. How do you choose your friends? What qualities do they have to have?
Yeah. Well, I have friends from, different parts of the world. We've connected in different ways. It could be through dancing. It could be through our passion for music, and or just my friends from college. I think for me, the biggest thing with my friends and why we've maintained these friendship groups for so long, it's just one, that loyalty. I think that loyalty has just been key. Like, we stand by each other. Doesn't matter what we go through. We're not going to be judgmental. I think sometimes we misconstrue judgment with caring for you. And that's something that I've experienced firsthand too. Like, I don't want to come across as just judgmental, but I do worry about you. And this is why I asked all these questions. But I think it's just that mutual respect, like talking in a way where we're bouncing off of each other. And to me, that's so important, that acknowledgement, that level of respect, that loyalty, like, you're my ride or die no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter where I am in the world or where you are, we're going to pick up from where we last left off when we see each other next. And I love that. I think that's been the beauty of my friendships, because I have best friends in California, in New York, in Wales. And I think that for me has been the upside of living in different places, that I have people from different walks of life who I considered really important people in my life. But also on the downside, it just really sucks that I can't have all of them together and for all of them to know each other.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the beauty of that is just that mutual respect, and that honesty, that communication, like, I'm just looking out for you. And also, if you entrust some of your truth onto them, like, they are respectful of that, and they are spreading out your business to other people. And I think with me, because we're a lot older now, my friends and I were respectful of that. This is not gossip. It's our truth. And I love that. Like, my friends, oh God, I don't know where I'd be without my friends. They're just absolutely everything.
How do you choose people though? Like, because I mean, you establish these relationships, and that's when you get to see all those qualities. But I want to know how you pick them.
I don't know. It's not like I picked them. I'm like, oh, you're going to be my friend. I think it's just that vibe. This is something I have to mention though. I think now, after experiencing so much, you experience a lot of good moments and good experiences, but you also experience heartaches, and you experience like, I can't even put it into words, or maybe I'm just losing my words here. But when you go through your ups and downs, right? And you meet people that you connect with, I think for me, what's also important is just the energy that you bring. If you bring that positive energy, I feel safe, I feel good. But if I feel any sense of negativity, my body instantly reacts to that. And I'm like, oh, Luvia, you got to take a step back. And I just know we're not going to vibe that way. And I've had to learn that, and I'm still learning. I think that's something that comes with experiences. But I've met people randomly. I can give you an example where I was traveling and met a girl, random girl in Thailand, Vietnam, I think we met. And she so happened to be from Orange County. And then I was like, oh, I'm from LA. And we just became instantly close. And I moved back to the States, and we just picked up from where we last left off, and we were hanging out in LA. And I'd only just met her twice when we were abroad. And now I still talk to her. She's still in Orange County. I'm in Australia, but we maintain that level of communication, like the friendship is there. And I think now the beauty with social media and Instagram and Facebook, you can stay connected.
Yeah.
And that's been good. Yeah. So it's like sometimes I feel friendships, it's not like I choose them. I think we're just destined to meet.
The last thing I'm gonna say about it is, it sounds like you honor how you feel, like you acknowledge how you feel when you meet someone and you honor that. I think a lot of us, I know for me, it's been times like I knew that I didn't vibe with that person, but especially like when I go somewhere new, I'm almost like, I just want to meet some people. So I kind of like tolerate things I normally wouldn't, but what I got out of that is like, honor how you feel inside when you meet someone, and okay, I'm not feeling this, they gotta go. And if I feel like if you honor that in the beginning, you'll save yourself a lot down the road.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
But people serve a purpose in your life. They come into your life either at the wrong time or at a good time for a reason. I genuinely believe that. And oftentimes, whether it's even in a relationship, you meet them, they serve a purpose, but they're not meant to stay in your life. That's similar to a friendship as well. But if there's that, I think sometimes it's not a matter of like you take from that relationship. You got to give and take to maintain that. And if it's not something that you feel you're gaining from a friendship or from a relationship, that's something that you question next. Like, do I want this in my life? I question that now. Like, I don't know if I want that energy. It's draining me. So I'm just going to, take a step back and go somewhere else.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Taking that in, taking notes.
I think I was going to speak on kind of when you were talking about energy, and I don't think I've ever told you this, Luvia, but I feel like you also have a very welcoming energy. So I remember the first time we met during that orientation. I only met you that one time, and I was like, oh, I hope she decides, because I know you're on the fence a little bit, but right away I was like, I hope she decides to like go on this program. So I think, like you said, honoring how you feel, but also having that energy of people wanting to get to know you and people feeling welcomed in your presence. I think that's something I still struggle with, because I tend to be a bit more like closed off until I really get to know a person. But I feel like right away you just felt very like open and just like,
oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's how I like to live my life now. It's like I'm an open book. Whatever comes my way, I will welcome it. And if it's not for me, then I will just take a little detour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Iman, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, are you...
question for you.
I didn't hear you.
I was like, we just have so many questions for you.
I do. It's in my mind. But are you conscious? Do you consciously think before you go into a room? Because I know Iman's had that quote, like, be careful of the energy you give out when you go into a room and bring the energy that you would want to attract. And do you, and we hear these things, but when we're so busy in life, sometimes we don't take that time to think like, oh, what am I bringing right now? I'm just, because you're focused on that one thing that or whatever you're trying to get done. Do you consciously take time, like before you went into the orientation, like, okay, or is it just like over years you've practiced and it's kind of natural, or how do you do it?
How do you do what you do?
I think being mindful of where I am, how I feel. If I'm not having the best of days, I definitely don't want to bring people down. I think, that saying, misery loves company.
Yes.
I'm the complete opposite. I don't like that. I take a lot of pride in myself in that, which isn't always great. I think there was a while where I was going through a lot of personal things that I chose to keep to myself. And I wasn't telling my friends, thinking like, oh, they're experiencing such amazing things in their life, but I'm on the other end of the spectrum. And I think I was repressing those feelings myself to avoid my friends feeling sad for me when they were having, you know, the time of their lives and so many great things were happening to them. And through conversations with one of my closest friends, I was saying that, you know, for a long time, and when I say a long time, I'm talking about years, I suppressed a lot of feelings, emotions that I was going through that my friends knew nothing about, my family knew nothing about. And in turn, I think I was just damaging myself even more. And that was pride, that was shame, that was a number of emotions, things that I needed to figure out myself. Why am I keeping this to myself? Why am I not feeling, you know, I said to you earlier, I'm an open book, but why am I not sharing this aspect of my life? And I think it goes back to shame. And I think, you know, that that segment by Brene Brown, when she's being interviewed and she talks about shame, I felt all of that. Like, I felt she was talking to me because I was that girl where I was just like, okay, I'm too proud. I don't want my family to worry about me or my friends to think something's not going right. And I remember, I think looking back now, that was probably the worst time in my entire life where I just felt so alone. Like, I was surrounded by all the people that I loved, whether it was personally or via social media because of distance, but I felt so alone because only I knew what I was experiencing. And now through time, I think it takes time, you know, you have to heal, and time helps with all of that. And then you meet other people that you start sharing new experiences with, and they start making you think like, hey, that wasn't all that bad, and that was part of the journey. It's all part of the journey, you know, your ups and downs. But that's definitely something that I've learned from. I think moving forward now, if I am feeling something that's really kind of eating me inside, even if it's one friend, open up to that person, talk about those feelings, because I never want to be in that space again. And I'm telling you from first experience, I never want to be that girl again.
Yeah. I was thinking that, would you do it the same way again if it happened? And you answered that question. But I was, to anybody listening, I did the same exact thing when I went through something very dark for years, and I didn't tell anyone, and it was so isolating, and I would never do that again. Now I'm just like, this is going on, that's going on, and it's people I trust. But if you can't handle it, oh, well, I don't know. I'm not gonna go tell someone at the grocery store. But if you're my friend and I need to talk, I'm gonna talk to you, and I'm not gonna hold it in, because, and my friend said something really good to me once. He said, don't isolate yourself, because he said solitary confinement is the worst punishment in prison, and they do that for a reason. We're not supposed to be isolating ourselves like that. And that it takes a lot to really push yourself. But I was like, I didn't want to bring people down. It was like, it was in LA, and I came to LA. I'm supposed to be doing big things and like not out here struggling. So I just didn't want to bring other people down, and that pride thing. So I said that to you and to the listeners, like, don't isolate yourself when you're feeling down. It's the worst thing. I think that adds insult to injury, and it's so important not to do that.
Yeah. And just to remind ourselves that it's okay to feel vulnerable. Like, we're humans. It's okay for things not to always go as planned. It's okay for you not to always be successful. Like, you know, we're going to experience our downfalls, but we also need to find ways on how we can come out of that and not kind of dig a deeper hole for ourselves. And it took me years to learn that and to be where I am now. You know, I think like you, I was in a dark place myself, and you know, people that I cared about and loved, who I felt had turned their backs on me. And I think it was also grief. Like, I was grieving the loss of those relationships. And it's, you know, those feelings can intensify where you feel like you've hurt me, so I have to do the same. And it's all part of grief as well. You know, I became really angry, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do something out of spite so that you can feel a little bit of that pain that I'm feeling. But then when I was just looking into it and thinking about it and processing, I'm like, Luvia, you're not that person. You are not that person. So why stoop yourself down to that level? And you just have to let it go. You know, there comes a point where you're just like, this is not bringing anything good into my life. It's just making it worse. You just need to let it go. And I think once you find that space where, even though you let it go, but it's still there, but you can kind of just manage those feelings, and you can kind of bring yourself back up, and you're able to handle it a lot better than you once did when you're really hurting in that point. Yeah. I think I felt really proud, honestly. Even now, like, I feel so good being able to talk about it with you both, you know, because it's not something that I have felt comfortable talking about in the past. But I think it's all part of the healing process, and talking about it just makes you feel like all this weight is off your shoulder. Like, I just want to live a life. Like, I just want to be happy. That's all I ask for.
Yeah. What helped? Sorry, this is my last thing you want. But and one thing that helped me was, and even now when I go through things, I'm like, I just remind myself, this is a season. This will pass. Like, the good times pass and the bad times pass. So just if you can just get through this, you'll be okay. Because things still happen. They're always going to happen. And reminding myself, this is a part of the human experience. This is a part of my life. You're going to go through things. This is how you manage it. And you're going to go through it. It's going to be okay. But it's just remembering that in those moments that I feel like is so important. So sorry, Ma, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's interesting because I feel like, and I do this too, like, when you're going through something and other people are happy, you're like, I don't want to bring them down. I don't want to rain on their parade per se. But then it's like, there's so many people that are also going through that same situation, and I feel like feeling that same way. So just being vulnerable in that space. There's this speaker, he's one of my, you guys probably heard of Les Brown, is one of my favorite inspirational speakers, and he talks about having chicken soup people in your life. So those are people that, like, you can be completely vulnerable, tell them your deepest, darkest secrets, and still feel they're still going to come when you're sick with a bowl of chicken noodle soup and be like, I'm here for you. So I think it's so important. I've found, like, in my friendships, my friends serve different purposes, and I definitely have those friends that I'm like, okay, like, this is what's going on. Give me my bowl of chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you know what's also the lesson in that? I learned that people in the outside knew nothing that I was going through because I wouldn't show it. And I think it really is a reminder of, you never know what other people are going through. You never know. So what you do when that person is around you just goes a long way. Like, you know, and they say always be kind, because you never know what struggles the person next to you is going through, because you don't know. And I think for me, that was the biggest lesson. People always thought, oh, you know, this happy girl always traveling, you know, she's got it good. And I didn't. You know, I felt blessed and fortunate, but it wasn't always good. And I think for me, it's just that reminder. That for me was really important. But going back to, I was saying earlier, we're talking about different speakers and people that have shed some light onto us. I think for me, I got into reading like self-help books, and I've gone out to YouTube and listened to TED Talks, and I found those for me like life-changing as well. And there was a quote, and this quote has stuck with me since I first heard it, and it was from Devon Franklin, where he said, rejection is God's protection. And I thought about it over and over again, and I'm like, and that's right. You know, if something is not meant for you, why waste your energy on that? It wasn't meant for you in the first place. And yes, none of us, we're humans. We don't like to be rejected, but it's just not for you. And then it also reminded me of what my friends always say. And a lot of us, we speak Spanish, and there's this saying where it's like, lo que es para ti, nadie te lo quita, which means, translates to, what's meant for you will be for you. And you know, it won't be taken from you. And that really, for me, is the truth. You know, it really is the truth. So yeah.
That's so funny. I was listening to an audio book today that said the exact same thing. So it must be something I need to hear. It literally, I only listened to like 10 minutes of it, and that was the exact part. It's called like the game of life or whatever, but they were like, you can't pray for something that's not meant for you. If it's trying to leave, like, just let it go. And it's so hard sometimes, because you think you want this thing so bad. Really good. Okay, I got it.
And they're messages, aren't they? It's like somehow the universe is putting it out there for you to listen, whether it's through discussions, whether it's through a book, through music. I think for me, when I was in that dark place, there was an album that had been released by India Ari, and it's called Songiversary. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's the Songiversary. Um, ah, I got to Google it and I got to let you know. But it was so good. But it talks about that, just feeling blessed and being grateful, and having a grateful heart just goes really a long way. Connecting yourself with people, with situations, with experiences that are going to uplift you. And that is, to me, that was everything. I needed to hear that. And sometimes when I'm not feeling my best, I listen to that album and it's everything. Yeah.
It's just how music, I do the same thing. Music can completely just change your mood.
Yeah. I'm trying to just to suggest it to you all. Maybe it's not Songiversary and I made that up. Sorry. India Ari.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That wasn't the name. It's called Songversation.
Songversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
Songversation. But
close.
again, it's that communication and music, and how the two connect, really. Music for me is my favorite form of therapy. I love music.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna check that album out for sure.
Yeah.
Like India, I really heard that one.
Mm-hmm. So I guess switching gears a little bit, and you talked about it a bit, but what is something that you hope people say about you when you're not in the room? Have you ever, I know it's kind of like a question most people don't think about, but.
Yeah. Listen, I hope good things. Hopefully good things. I think for me, it's like I want to inspire people. I want to inspire as much as I am inspired. And I am inspired by everyone who I cross paths with, some way or another. You know, they really, there's something about them. Again, you know, going back to why people come into your life, I think for me is that energy. If I could say something based on experiences or you know, things that I hope for or things that we're passionate about, I hope that's something they can like stay with, like, oh yeah, I remember I had that conversation with Luvia, and then this is what she suggested, and like now we're talking about music, and Selena said, oh, I'm going to check it out. And I hope that when you do listen to that album, it says something to you, it delivers something to you that has you know, similar to what's done to me. So yeah, I hope good things, but I just want to inspire and be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And what so if you had to give one piece of advice to someone, what would you, that's really broad. I wanted to narrow it down because I feel like you would have really good advice, but just like a general in passing, they would be like, I need advice.
Yeah, I think it's always to trust your instinct, trust your gut. You know, it's there for a reason, those feelings. Follow your heart, whatever makes you happy, do that. You know, if you're scared about something new, a new opportunity, hey, run with it. You never know where it's going to lead you. You know, I what else? Yeah, your happiness comes first. Be kind to other people. Yeah, I think be someone in this world that's going to impact this world in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's on a small scale, a big scale, just do something good in this world. We need good.
Yeah.
100%. One of the things that me and Selena have talked, so we're both part of the reason we started the podcast, which you like too, is just we're really into self-help books and just inspirational videos, quotes. And we talked about, actually Selena brought this up, just a lot of people that have reached this level of success have a routine, like either in the morning or throughout their day. What would you say is kind of your like routine that kind of gets you in a good headspace and feeling like, all right, I'm ready for the day?
On an ideal day when I can, because sometimes work gets in the way. I definitely, every morning I wake up and I open I kind of just open my curtains and just look at the day and just say something that I'm grateful for, whether it's a thing or two or three things, something that I'm grateful for, that I'm happy for. It's a new day. Let's make the most of it. Go to work, do what I need to do. After work, I try to go to the gym or do something that brings, that's pleasurable for me, that I enjoy, that it's, I think after a long day of work, for me, the gym is perfect because I can kind of like let everything go and then just unwind in a very weird way. When I'm working out and sweating, I'm somehow still unwinding. And then every night, for me, because I'm not religious per se, but I do consider myself spiritual. I do pray. I pray for my family, for my friends, for people that I care about, for people that are in need. I think about people whose maybe circumstances are a lot worse than some of the circumstances and downfalls that I've experienced. There's a lot of people out there who, are going through a lot of struggles. So I pray for them, and that to me, it makes me feel good. So to me, that's an ideal day. And then the weekend is a little different, where I want to be surrounded by friends and doing fun things. So I try to stick to that, trying to stay connected with myself, with people I care for, and so forth.
Did you have anything? That sounds bad. Did you have anything else?
No, I feel like you've answered all of our questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us, Luvia?
I wanted to suggest a reading for you girls, because one of my supervisors, when I was in LA last year, had gifted me with this journal. And I'm not sure if you've heard of it or seen it before, but it's quite good. It's called Start Where You Are. Can you see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like a journal for self-exploration by Mira Lee Patel. And in there, it just has some positive quotes, just reminders of practicing mindfulness, things you want to jot down of what you experience on the day, what you want to accomplish. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a small little book. You can carry it with you. So I just want to suggest it to you girls or anyone that's listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
So I guess we'll wrap up then. It was so nice talking to you. And I wanted to ask more questions because I love you. You're so like calming. Like it's like a meditation. Like, okay, when you talk, it's like, but I guess I'll close this out. Do you have anybody have anything else?
No, other than just all the best to you girls. Thank you for doing this.
So again, thank you, Luvia, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves.
And thank you, listeners. We could not do this without you. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to this episode. Leave a message. We want to hear from you. We always appreciate your feedback.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we have our guests say our tagline, which is a little long, just a warning, but it is, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
I know it's long. It's long. You want to say it again?
So we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours. And I could put it in the chat because I'm reading it. I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
You'll take us out, Luvia, with the tagline.
Yeah.
Me and Iman have never tried this.
We have to shorten it. Think about that.
And we've never tried to do it ourselves.
I know.
So we're asking them to do something we haven't done.
Oh, thank you girls so much. Honestly, you're both so inspiring. I really enjoyed this. It is a conversation, and it's like, I really appreciate, just having an open conversation of that it's okay to just experience those vulnerabilities and how we overcome them together. This is a community and we need to have each other's back, and, to reach that level of success in the future and however you define success, I really hope you achieve that and more.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Likewise, definitely. Take care, girls.
All right. Have a good one.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye.